What's up, everyone? Did you know that this mug is really cool? So before we get started, you know that we have to start with a wildlife wild fact. Komodo dragons can grow up to be 10 feet long and weigh over 300 pounds. They are absolutely massive, and despite their size, they can still run a maximum speed of 12 miles per hour. I don't want to be in front of that. Komodo dragons only live on 3 different islands in the entire world, all in Komodo National Park, Indonesia. To learn more about these living dinosaurs, check out the links in the description below and leave a like if you like Komodo dragons. Today, we're doing LeetCode number 26 called Remove Duplicates from a Sorted Array. It's an easy problem on LeetCode. Let's get started. Given a sorted array, nums, remove duplicates in place such that each element appears only once and returns the new length. Do not allocate extra space for another array. You must do this by modifying the input array in place with O of 1 extra memory. This is absolutely key. Otherwise, we could just go through and create a new array with all of the values that we want and none of the values that we don't want. But we have to modify the input array instead and use O of 1 space. Confused why the return value is an integer, but your answer is an array? Question mark? Note that the input array is passed in by reference, which means a modification to the input array will be known to the caller as well. Let's think of it like this. Nums, which is our array, is passed in by reference. For example, without making a copy. Int length is equal to remove duplicates of nums. Our output integer is going to be stored as this variable length. Any modification to nums in your function would be known by the caller. Using the length returned by your function, it prints the first length elements of that array. So if you look at the for loop that they've written, for int I, while I is less than length, where length is the integer that we are returning, print nums at I. So they are going to look at the first length elements of the input array after we return an integer. So for example, input nums equals 1, 1, 2, 1. So this is our input array, and this is the array that we have to modify. But the output that they want is just the integer 2. Why? Because once we remove all duplicates, ideally our array will read 1, 2. And we are going to return a length of 2 so that they only read the first 2 elements of our array. What this means is that we don't actually have to remove the elements from the array. We just have to make it so that the first however many elements in the array are in fact unique. If we look at example number 2, nums, our input, there's a lot of duplicates in that input array. Your function should return length 5 with the first 5 elements of nums being modified to 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4 respectively. It doesn't matter what values are set beyond the returned length. This is what I'm trying to say. This is what's important. We can have as many values as we want at the back end of the array as long as those first length elements represent every unique value in the array. So let's get started. This is a great problem to start learning the two-pointer method in JavaScript. If you haven't heard of the two-pointer method yet, it's where you have 2 variables, I and j, usually could be start or end, slow or fast, and they both traverse the array, could be in the same direction, could be in opposite directions. Today will be in the same direction, and you use them to usually compare values. I'm going to start off with j, and that's going to equal 0. And now I'm going to make a for loop. So for let I equal 0, while I is less than nums dot length and I plus plus. Actually, why don't I start I off at 1 since I know that I'm going to be comparing the values of I and j, and I want to only change this array if the values are not equal to each other. So if nums at I is not equal to nums at j, what do I want to do? I want to swap these values in the array, but it's not enough just to swap them. So first thing I want to do is actually increment j. And after I increment j, I want to make a swap. I'm going to use this classic swap with a temp variable. Let temp equal nums at I. Nums at I is equal to nums at j. And nums at j is equal to temp. So this is going to swap those values. And finally, at the end, we want to return the length of our new array, or the length of those first set of unique values in the beginning of the array. It's not enough just to return j, because don't forget j starts off at 0, and we're working with a 0-indexed array. So in order for j to represent the length of this array, we have to add 1 to it, and that should do it. Awesome. We'll submit. There you have it. We see that our answer was submitted, was accepted. Again, you can click on your answer and see how you compare to different solutions. You can check out the discussion to see other people's solutions. Let's go through this one more time. We have our input array 1, 1, 2. I want to go through the array starting at index 1, which is 1. If nums at I and nums at j are not equal, well, j is 0 and I is 1. So 1 and 1 are equal. We actually don't hit any of this in our first input. So we go to our next iteration of the loop. I is now 2, and so nums at 2, which happens to be 2, is not equal to nums at 0, which is 1. We increment j. Now j is 1. And we swap them. 2 goes here and 1 goes here. We finish our loop and we come down here and we return j. 1 plus 1 is 2, so we return 2, a length of 2, which actually adds up to 1, 2. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching my video. This was a really great way to start practicing with the two-pointer method. If you liked the video, smash that like button below. If you want to have more videos like this, please subscribe. I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.